I woke up in beast mode with my girl.
Everybody, welcome back to the Raw Cave Show. Today we have Simon Wing-Lun in the studio or on the Zoom. Thanks for joining us, Simon.
Hey, thank you, Zach.
For those who don't know Simon, we met actually probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. I came to one of actually your birthday, and
Yeah.
I was amazed at this incredible community that you're creating here in Sydney, and you have actually founded a particular healing method, for those who don't know, called the Unconditional Love Healing Method. And I'm intrigued by this. I believe our body has an incredible ability to heal itself if it's given the right environment and situation, and and I'm just fascinated by this topic. So I was like, Simon, I'd love to interview you. And you're like, yes, sure. So thanks so much for being here, for one. And for those who also don't know, you guys run trainings, you do emotional healing, you do one-on-ones, you work with trauma, people work on relationships with, I guess, couples and also singles, and helping people with tantra as well. So very exciting topics that I'm really curious to learn about. And a lot of the people on this channel and on Facebook and stuff I'm sure, are curious to learn more as well. So before we get into it, is it cool if you just kind of share a bit about your story and how you came to create this healing method?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Zach. So, well, a lot's happened, but one of the key moments actually was when I was 19. And at this point, I've been brought up in what I would, from my perspective, was a pretty mainstream sort of Western society, in the school system. When I went to school, it was all about achievement, going to uni, getting the best job, making as much money as you can. And that's the vibe I was brought up in. And that's how I saw my life. I didn't really see many other options. But when I was 19, I had a really difficult relationship experience. I felt really hurt, really betrayed. And looking back, I can see at that time, I didn't really know how to deal with the emotional side of it. I didn't really know how to deal with my feelings. So I just put on a happy face and basically felt, well, I need to pretend everything's okay, so that people still like me, so that I fit in, so that I'm happy. And soon after that, I got sick one winter, and then I stayed sick for like 3 years. And yeah, and in retrospect, I just constantly get like chest infections, I get the flu, like all winter for 3 years, and I just had no energy. And, I went and got blood tests and all sorts of things to try and find out what was going wrong. And nothing ever came up. Like the doctors couldn't see. It's like, well, I can't see anything in particular. So looking back, I think part of the reason why that happened is actually because I kept so much of that emotion inside. It was eating me up on the inside. And I just didn't realize it at the time. But I'm now really grateful for everything that happened, because one way or another, the level of stress and frustration and difficulty that time in my life actually created. At the same time, I was studying business and economics at uni. I thought I'd go work in a bank or some big corporation, but I actually hated it. I was dead bored, but I just thought, this is what I've got to do. And that hard, kind of miserable time in my life, in a sense, I was looking for answers without really knowing what I was looking for. And eventually, just this whole other world opened up to me of spiritual healing, alternative health, understanding there's so many ways that we've got power to improve our lives and literally to create our own reality. And as just these things just came into my life, just as simple as I met this Native American spiritual healer in a youth hostel in China and just got talking and just opened up all this stuff. Came back to Sydney, met some more people, and eventually I was like, right, I just got to check this stuff out. So at that time, I also had really bad back pain as well as all the other stuff I had going on. And when I went and actually got this healing session, and it was healing based on this understanding and idea that what we believe about ourselves has a huge impact on every aspect of our lives, including our physical body. And the first time I experienced this sort of work, I actually experienced almost like an instant miraculous healing in my back. It was like my vertebrae were moving into place, but no one was touching me. Like I was at the chiropractor, but no one was touching me. I was just letting go of feeling unsupported, of believing I couldn't love myself and these sorts of things. So that moment, yeah. So basically, that moment, I was just like, right, there's so much stuff. I did courses, not because I wanted to be a healer, just because I felt it would be a good way to improve myself and keep on growing. But eventually I just had this feeling as I started to practice the healing I was learning, having someone sit in front of me and just really help them, I just knew this is what I want to be doing with my life. This feeling of really helping someone. I thought when I graduate, I'm going to be sitting in front of a computer with spreadsheets and stuff, and I'm going to want to do this. So why didn't I decide to do it now? So I spent my sixth and final year of uni just totally doing everything I could, learning about healing, doing healing courses, and that became my new passion. And soon after I graduated, I actually got a job doing healing full-time in a Westfield shopping center in a shop, and it just all flowed from there. So that was the start of the story and me coming into this world. And then eventually, just through working out and experiencing, well, what works for me to create healing and change in my life and what works for others, eventually I started to realize for myself that love is actually it. I believe love is like our natural state. When we're in a place of love, everything, including our emotions, our relationships, our body, comes into how we really want it to be. When we place blocks or conditions on our love, on our emotions, how we feel about ourselves, one way or another, we experience stress in our lives. And so a way of healing really based on unconditional love just became natural for me. And eventually, as things started to really work for me in my own life, I realized, here's this way of healing with love, and it's working. I'm not seeing it elsewhere in the same way, so I really want to share it. And that's the short story of kind of me sort of at 19 to where I am now. Yeah.
So interesting, man. It's so crazy. Those little moments, those people that you meet, that conversation can really change your whole life. So I love that. And for those who don't know, if maybe you're watching this for the first time or these interviews for the first time, we don't plan these. These are totally off the cuff. I have a few questions, but you spoke about something, Simon, in terms of lower back pain. And it's so funny because right now I'm actually going through a little bit of lower back pain and going to the chiro. So could you kind of touch upon that a little bit more? There's so many people out there with back pain or joint issues and things like that. How does the how does someone's emotions affect their physical body like that?
Well, hugely. I actually believe that each of our muscles holds particular emotional energy that either allows it to contract or relax. On a sort of more technical level, if you can imagine, when we're experiencing the world in any certain way, but for example, if we're really afraid, certain muscles in our body will tense up, getting ready to run away or getting ready to protect ourselves. And when we're chronically afraid, which happens because of sometimes traumatic things in childhood or anything, then we can end up with like this chronic tightness in any aspect of our body. And whenever that's in an uneven way or an unnatural way, that can cause all sorts of pain and pressure on nerves and that sort of thing. But part of how that worked out for me is now I understand that I had what's called scoliosis. So my spine was quite uneven. One shoulder was higher than the other. One hip was higher than the other. From when I was a young child, if I look at pictures of me being 7 or 8 years old, you can see my posture's really uneven. You can see my spine's not straight. But I didn't realize it until I was 17 and I had a bit of neck pain and I went to a chiropractor and he's like, hey, instead of being basically a straight line, your spine is more like an S. So let's start straightening that out. So I started going to chiropractors. And what I found is that while some things got better, actually, the more I kind of got chiropractic treatment, the more pain I was in. Not because I think chiropractic treatment's great, but I think it happened because my whole body had grown to not be symmetrical, to not be even. And then just by putting the joints back together in an even place, then all the muscles were tensed and stressed in a new way. So I was just in constant sort of stress and back pain, even after getting chiropractic and even massage for a few years. And when I first dealt with the emotional side of it, actually the first lady I went to, she said, I know from experience that a lot of back pain is actually around, especially lower back pain, around the emotional experience of not being supported, of not feeling supported. She said, do you feel unsupported in your life? And I was like, yeah, in a lot of ways. I hadn't let people support me. I hadn't let my parents support me in many ways. I was always very independent-minded. I hadn't felt spiritually supported because I wasn't brought up with any sense of spiritual connection. And in that moment, as I was willing to realize that I could let so much more support into my life, that's when literally my muscles just relaxed themselves and moved my back into place. And my back pain, let's just say my back pain was like 70%. It went down to like 30% in that instant, and it stayed like that.
Wow.
So I've had plenty more treatment since, and it's been a continued journey undoing all the kind of stuff I had from childhood with that. But without the emotional side of it, I don't think I would have had anywhere near as much progress if I just kept on doing physical things.
Sure. So that's amazing. So what happened in that one session that made the shift for you?
Well, firstly, I think our minds are that powerful that when we are in a place to recognize that our attitude to the world, not just kind of our surface thoughts, but our deep beliefs about ourselves, our attitude about the world can change, then on a physical level, if you can imagine, we have a different idea. Neurologically, that's like a different arrangement of pathways within our brain. Then our brain is sending different signals through a nervous system and through our hormonal system throughout our whole body. And in an instant, like on a physical level, when you have a big shift in your awareness, that can shift into a big shift in your body and what's going on. I think some people might have experienced that, when all of a sudden something emotional or a situation relaxes in your life, then you're breathing easier. And that literally happens.
Lighter, yeah.
People's muscles in their chest relax when our mind switches. So there's many different techniques and different things, that people use to facilitate that sort of a switch.
Yeah.
That's one way how powerful it can be. I think on a spiritual level, things can change on an even deeper level, on the level that we're sort of just, quantum particles really, and how our consciousness literally, I actually believe it kind of creates our reality like a hologram in each moment. When you have a big change, even faster than our physical body can heal, sometimes our body can change. But I've definitely experienced the power of that sort of thing many times.
Amazing. So with this particular method that you have, do you teach people how to have that rapid change? Or is there a particular other healing modality that gets the results from your experience the best, or the best results, the most profound results, whatever you want to call it?
Definitely. Well, I mean, the way that I teach things now, I feel that that's the most effective way, because it's just the amalgamation of, I've learned many different healing processes and have many different experiences, and everything has its gift. And of course, what I'm excited about is just my own experience of combining everything, seeing what's worked in my life. So in a sense, yeah, I feel like, the unconditional love healing process I teach, is the most effective that I've come across. And what I've found really makes a big difference when it comes to creating change with any sort of issue, whether it's like a physical health issue, or whether it might be like a relationship stress or pattern that keeps on coming up, or an anxiety or a fear or a sense of depression or sadness that we just can't seem to let go of. What I've found makes the biggest difference in being able to change things with the power of our mind or consciousness is actually understanding our emotions and really welcoming our emotions on a deeper level. If there's one thing that I think is really important, I've noticed sometimes when people get into realizing, I can change how I think and it changes my life, and that's really powerful. We can think in a really positive way, but often we've learned to suppress our emotions so much as children that even when we try and kind of, I'm going to choose to think I love myself more, or, life is abundant, life can be easy, I'm worthy, I'm good enough. Sometimes the level of emotional stress that says otherwise is kind of, it's almost like it's too strong for our mind to override in that sense. So what we have to do is really love our emotions, really welcome, I've got these emotions around whatever's going on. And then from that place of really giving our emotions space, then really make that change in what's causing those emotions on a deeper level, the deeper patterns and mindsets that are not just our day-to-day thoughts, but our longer emotional patterns. If that makes some sense. It's jumping into a few things, but that's what I found to be really effective.
I guess for some people out there thinking, okay, this is quite new to me and I'm wanting to learn, maybe explore this a little bit more without having to come and do a session or come to an event or something like that. Are there some things people can do today to start self-healing or accelerating their own self-healing within their body? And I guess that what you said just before, how do you accept those emotions, or how do you allow those emotions to come through? Is there a particular method, or like, I know you got the method, but are there any things that people can do at home?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And one of the most powerful things, and look, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy, is often when we can feel some emotion coming up around any stressful situation in our life, often we try and sort of fix it straight away, or we try and solve it straight away. Or, often we just try and suppress it. We can suppress emotion with food, with TV, with any distraction. But if we're at a place where we're kind of realizing, I've got a stress in my life and I want to deal with it, then taking time to know it's actually safe to feel that emotion, to be emotional, to give ourselves that space. I think that's one of the most powerful things that many people don't do. Because often as children we learned, if I'm emotional, then people aren't going to love me. If I'm emotional, I'll get more emotional and I won't be able to handle it. When we can have a sense of knowing that, if I've got emotion coming up, negative, difficult emotion, it's probably coming from some sort of old belief system, some sort of old traumatic experience that I've taken on. And as much as it can feel powerful now, it doesn't actually have power over me. So for me, it's like being able to feel emotion. I've got this anger going on and that's okay. I've got this sadness going on and that's okay. Rather than letting it take you all the way over. If that happens, that's okay too. But for me, that's like the powerful first step. And then if you can, sometimes it's hard, and then really kind of being honest with ourselves. Where's that emotion really coming from? Why am I really that angry? Do I still really need to be that angry or that sad? Adding any part of that to what's going on for people, that's what I'd recommend is something that many people sort of don't do or haven't thought to do yet.
Great. So just to make it super practical to someone, does someone say, for example, to start accepting these emotions, the anger comes up or the overwhelm? For me, I can totally relate in business. Putting myself out there on social media through these videos, it can get scary and overwhelming and fearful at times. Or even in new relationships, I've felt emotions come up like anger or sadness or rejection, things like that. So how does someone start accepting these emotions? Do you recommend like sit down, close your eyes, meditate? Do you breathe into it? Is there what does it look like to accept one of these emotions?
Sure. Look, any of those things, breathing into it, sitting down, giving it space. You know what? I've got some emotion going on. I can take time. Can I give myself a little bit of time out in some sort of way from like having to be something, and just let myself feel and let myself know that I'm okay regardless of what I feel. That's what I recommend. And what takes things to a deeper level, like that sort of thing is taught more and more commonly these days. What I feel is like the real piece that gives us the biggest sense of empowerment over our emotions and in fact our whole lives is actually having an understanding of what the emotion actually is. And for me, what that is some people we can see, well, our emotions are just these mysterious forces that come up. But my understanding is that our emotions are all created by specific belief systems that we hold. If I'm feeling angry, on some level, I'm believing something is wrong. If I'm feeling sad, somewhere on some level, I'm feeling disconnected from love. If I'm feeling afraid, somewhere on some level, I've got an expectation something bad is going to happen and I'm not going to be able to deal with it in some way. If I feel ashamed or guilty, I'm believing on some level I've done something wrong. And when we can sort of understand, hey, our emotions are telling me I've got some belief going on. And ultimately, that belief might not really be true. It might not be in alignment with who I really am, with the love that perhaps I really am, or that's the natural me. That's when we can fully, you could say, understand our emotions and also fully transform them and ask them to leave. And for me, that's almost like where the unconditional love comes in. When we can love ourselves unconditionally, regardless of how we're feeling, that's a powerful step. And then when we can know that any negative belief that we hold, any unloving belief isn't really true, then we can release those emotions. If we know that, if we can feel that, if we can trust that on some level. And for me, that's the simple essence of healing that I've found most of it.
Nice. Oh, that's really interesting. I like that. My next question has to do around nutrition and health. So does someone's level of nutrition, or I guess level of health and vitality and energy and I guess homeostasis affect the healing process?
Well, yes. I mean, I think from wherever we are, we can always take that next step. But the food that we eat is a part of us. It becomes a part of us. And of course, it's going to have a big effect on our health and what we do. In terms of like physical health and sickness, I like to say there's sort of maybe two main things that you could say affect our health. And the way, or like a simplified way of understanding, you know what? When we're made of cells on a physical level, yes, there's many different levels of us, but on a physical level, we're made of cells. And when our cells, whether they're in our bones, whether they're in our muscles, in our organs, or whatever, when they're functioning well, then we can experience, more optimal health. We can feel free to love and to be and to do the things that we want to do. And of course, our cells are just like little versions of us in a way. They eat and they shit. And whatever we feed them is going to affect how they go, If we feed our cells, toxins, then they get blocked up. Things that aren't natural, that our bodies weren't designed to eat, they get blocked up. They don't function optimally. They don't reproduce optimally. And that's going to affect our health for sure. But the other thing that affects our health is, of course, how we use our cells. In like the way I see things, in every moment, we're sending messages to our body, to our cells, via our belief systems, via how we interpret the world. So we see things, we smell things, we feel things, and depending on how we interpret them, what beliefs we've got, we might send a message to ourselves that, you know what, everything's chill, I'm loved, I'm okay, and that's great. Or we might be sending messages, be afraid, this person might judge you. Be angry, this person is kind of your enemy and there's something wrong. Be really sad, love's not around, you're not supported. And our cells are designed to kind of process our emotions and be with them. But what happens is when we have like a chronic negative belief, if someone's told me as a child, like, you're useless, you're not good enough. And then as a result, in all these situations throughout my life, I'm feeling that. I'm actually sending that message to my cells, to my body, to react and contract in a way, oh, you're not good enough. If I get hurt by someone when I'm a little kid, and then I take on a belief, oh, people like this are scary, it might be, whenever I see, a certain sort of person on the street, I feel a bit of fear. Whenever I'm around this person in my family, I'm in fear. So then my body is constantly sending fight or flight messages to my cells. And so my cells are under constant stress and they're going to get worn out. So for me, that's where it's important to see that it can be more than just nutrition. It's important to our health. More than, and so it can be more subtle than just whether we exercise or not. It can be actually how we're being in the world emotionally, how loving we're able to be with ourselves and others affects our health that directly. Because when we're not loving, we're literally wearing out the cells in our body.
Okay. All right. This is all interesting stuff. I love it. It's great to hear another perspective, and it's so true. It's like there's that technique, the tapping technique, where they say, "I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself." You heard about the tapping?
Yeah.
And I guess there's different ways of doing that. Accepting these emotions and I guess recognizing where they're coming from, but going deeper and then showing up into the world, coming from that place of, I guess, leading from your heart, I guess, and showing up and how you feel every day based on your beliefs. Anyway, I like to think out loud. What blocks people's healing today? What is it how do people get in their own way?
Look, in all sorts of ways, you know, and at the same time, I feel like, you know, there's always a next step that we can take. Sometimes our journey seems harder, or we can feel like we just don't know where we're going, when there's a step for us to take that's something we haven't experienced before, or something we're afraid of and we don't recognize. And there's so many ways that can be, you know, because of the work I do, something that I find really commonly, and this kind of refers to some of the stuff I've spoken about, is I've met a lot of people who are kind of trying to think their way out of their problems. You know, like, when this happened to me at this age, I took on this belief that I was not enough, or people are scary, or I can't trust life. And now I know that that's not true, so I'm going to choose to believe that I'm okay. And then that can work. But if we're ignoring how we really feel, if we're not really connecting with our emotions, then that's one place where I've seen that people often feel really blocked. And I think part of the reason is there's a lot of people talking about the power of the mind, which is really important and really helpful. And that can make some really important changes. But there's a level of I can think things that have affected us emotionally that if we don't really feel and acknowledge on a deeper or experiential level, more static level, we won't get to. And so that people just need to find a way, or to know that it's possible to connect with those emotions. That's one thing. And in general, I would say just, you know, whenever we have a closed mind, or like closed attitudes, you know what, it has to be this way or it has to be that way, or we think that one particular thing has got all the answers, then it's really that closed-mindedness that's really the only block that's there. I think if we're open, you know, whether it's just in life and living our joy, or whether it's healing, if we're open to, you know, hey, what could be new information? What could be out there that could help me change? Then I actually believe the best thing will always just present itself to us, whatever it may be. I've had all sorts of people show up in my life, massage therapists, physical therapists, energy healers, just at the perfect time. And if I was closed-minded and couldn't think, oh, that can't help me, or I've already got all the answers, I would have stayed blocked. But by being open and curious, inquisitive, hey, what's worked for this person, what's worked for other people, you know, new things keep on helping me too.
That's it. Being open-minded is key. Absolutely. Personal development, you know, this whole industry of personal development is huge. What's the difference from your experience between personal development and healing?
I don't think there has to be a difference, you know, straight off. The words can mean the same thing. You know, healing can just mean being whole, like making whole, being whole. I don't think we're broken, but we can feel more of our truth. You know, for me, healing is really just coming into our truth, feeling our truth, and then that's reflected in our body. And personal development can be the same thing. You know, we can have a sense of, you know, I've got so much more potential in life. I could experience so much more joy and abundance and happiness in every way. And then you experience healing through personal development, through classic personal development courses, whatever it may be. I think where some, in what you would call, I mean, what I perceive as like the more personal development world, I think where some people feel hollow or empty or never quite get what they're looking for, it's because, you know, people can sometimes chase this ideal version of themselves or this ideal version of their life. You know, whether it's like, I want X amount of dollars, I want this sort of lifestyle, I want these, I mean, whatever, you know, it's a cliche, like cars, freedom, my own business, all that sort of thing. And we can have this attitude of, when I get there, I'll be happy. When I get there, I'll be worthy of love. And some people kind of like perpetuate that kind of, you know, achievement thing a little bit. And, you know, so we can kind of chase for that next thing without really learning to love who we are now and appreciate all the beauty and wonderfulness that we are in this moment through the life we've lived, you know. So that can happen in a certain mindset. On the healing side of things, some people can be really comfortable. You know what? I'm happy as I am now. I love and accept myself as I am. I'm great. I'm a wonderful, good person. But sort of stay afraid of their potential. People can not really want to acknowledge, you know what? I could be living so much more. Like I could be giving so much more to life. And sometimes people kind of hide in the now, afraid of their potential. So it can go both ways. For me, it's like when we can love who we are now, like recognize that we are completely, I believe, worthy of love as we are, and there's no right or wrong or nowhere we should be. And at the same time, recognize that we do have such great potential and power to change ourselves. When we can have those two things together, life feels a lot more full than just having one or the other. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. You got to have the balance and don't get stuck in one side of it. I have some friends who, they'll go and start becoming more spiritual, I guess, and they go and want to just sit on a rock all day and just meditate all day, and that's fine. But then they kind of forget about the real world. And I have some friends who are so driven on business and succeeding and stuff like that they have no then kind of fulfillment at the same time. So yeah, there's that balance that needs to happen. And yeah, interesting point. I like that. So today, right, people are so, I guess let's stay on that topic for a second. People are so driven to succeed, achieve and accomplish things. How does someone start today to kind of balance that out and kind of, because a lot of people are getting burnout, go, very kind of like masculine energy, go. Are there any tips you have for these types of people to kind of rest and relax and get in touch with themselves again?
Anything that goes under the title or category of like chill out or chill the fuck out. But I think it's more, I think the opportunity is more fundamental. And what I've experienced for myself is like, so when I started out, I was a part of I did all these courses in this particular healing system that, it was quite big and popular. And it's called a healing system, but really how it was presented to me was you can create like this perfect life, perfect relationship, perfect health, really happy, heaps of money, align yourself, heal yourself to create that perfect life. And that was really cool. And I was so excited, to hear and believe, people saying, you know what, you can have it, you can achieve it, you can do it, create it. Where in the more mainstream world I come from, it was sort of like, nah, live this life on this conventional track. So being able to hear, you know what, I really can achieve all that stuff. I had so much energy. It was so exciting. And then I found myself getting caught up, like, you know what? Oh, I haven't, after 2 or 3 years, you know what? Oh, this isn't perfect yet. I haven't achieved this yet. Oh, I'm a little bit sick. That's wrong. I should be in perfect health. And so even though my life kind of improved, it did improve in many ways out of sight, I kept this attitude of being hard on myself and feeling like I needed to achieve more, both to feel worthy in myself, to feel love and have connection with others. And when I started to let that go and tune into, well, you know what, all the good stuff's going to happen. But what does it really take for me to really be happy now? So much of it is about often relationships, often about really letting ourselves be loved for how we are now and just be seen and accepted and connected and appreciating the love that we have in our lives. So in a sense, I would say the last few years, my focus has really been on just being true to myself and enjoying the best connections, most loving connections that I can. And then the achievement side kind of naturally comes out of that. So I would think just for anyone, if you just take a moment to like realize or have a look at, well, how can I really just appreciate life and especially kind of relationships and sharing of love to the fullest as I am, or what's blocking me from really feeling, you know what, I can have the love and can really experience love, the love I want in my life right now. I mean, that's the most powerful question.
Awesome. So how can people get in contact with you? I know you guys run events in Sydney at the moment, and you have some new projects coming up. How can people get in touch and connect with you guys?
Awesome. So I work together. I just say I work together with my partner Laura. So in like Zach knows that we're like a plural, but I've been really fortunate. I don't quite believe in luck. It feels like we just kind of connected with each other, and we've got this alignment in terms of this passion for living from this space of love and sharing our life together. So all these things I've been speaking about, I do together now with my beautiful partner Laura, and so we teach all sorts of workshops together, particularly our unconditional love healing trainings, and all those are at our website, unconditional-love.com, unconditional-love.com. You can, our Facebook page is Unconditional Love Healing. We might have a new specific relationships website coming out soon. It's just not quite fully launched yet, but it'll all be in the one place. So that's basically it. Facebook, Unconditional Love Healing, our website, unconditional-love.com.
Perfect. We'll put it I'll put it at the bottom of the video, and then if it's on YouTube or Facebook, it will be in the post too, guys. So check it out. Definitely get in touch with Simon and Laura. They're doing amazing work. The community is so much fun. And I have a couple more questions just before we finish up. I know we're nearly finished on time.
Go for it.
I saw you and Laura and the love that you guys have for each other. In a relationship, maybe for couples out there, maybe what advice do you have for them, and how can they start incorporating for themselves? Because I know, a relationship can only grow to the extent that we grow ourselves. I think it's just a reflection of our own inner evolution. So do you have any tips for couples, maybe, for couples at the moment?
It feels like maybe for some people it's a bit of a cliche, but really kind of like loving ourselves first, taking responsibility for our own stuff, making sure, finding alignment with our true passion and joy, and then bringing that to relationship, checking in where we've kind of compromised ourselves, where we felt I have to sacrifice for the other. For me, that's a powerful foundation, but relationships are about two people, like being aware, really being aware, communicating with an open mind, letting go of our projections and assumptions about what other people think. That allows for true connection. And so for me, it's like when we can really be aware of each other and then make our own decisions from a place of truth, loving ourselves unconditionally first, or as much as we can, and then having a relationship from that place. For me, that's the foundation. Recently, we ran a relationships workshop recently, and we actually put what we actually do in our relationship and what's been working for us into 6 key points. And the first is self-love, of course. If we're always looking for that love outside ourselves, it never really feels quite right. Boundaries, saying yes and saying no. So often people find it hard to ask what they really want, to say what they really desire, say yes and say no, acknowledging that that's a challenge, but being able to work through those fears and be honest with ourselves about what we really want and bring that into relationship. That's important. Forgiveness for ourselves and others is the next, number 3, a huge piece. When we're kind of really hard on ourselves, or we kind of hard on forgiving others, that's always going to be a tension in relationship. Finding how we can forgive, that's important. Creating space for healing and change. If we're experiencing healing and change in ourselves, our partners are going to need to change too if we're going to stay together. So just acknowledging that's important. Having an understanding of our sexuality, of what we really want. Being able to have open, authentic communication around sex it's important in a relationship. We can kind of put that under the surface or gloss over it, but when it's all out on the table, I think it can be scary at first, but then it leads to real relaxation and openness and love. And then the last point is just, often I find people are afraid of showing their most powerful side in relationships, both our intimate relationships and with others, because often as kids, we would kind of have that squashed a bit. and also our most vulnerable side, the side of us that feels emotional or vulnerable or needy, and that's fine. When we can create a space where that can come into our relationships, then that's powerful. So I know that's just kind of glossing over some things, but that's sort of our approach. That's what we find works for us. That's what we practice. There's so many different people saying lots of good things, most of them true about relationships. And just, I guess also just knowing that we can always make changes in how we relate, especially when we change our relationship to ourselves, when we learn to love ourselves more. You know, we're never stuck in any relationship situation. We really love our relationship. We feel we're going to be together for a long time, and we do a lot of great things together, but we've both had some really difficult relationships before. And if we hadn't taken responsibility for letting those relationships happen in our life on some level, then I don't think we'd be able to have the joyful relationship that we have now. But by being able to take responsibility for, even if I didn't choose the shit stuff to happen, on some level, I let it happen, or I allowed it to happen, or I allowed it to continue, taking responsibility for that, we've been able to grow something more.
Those points are amazing. I listen to these interviews all the time. I listen to my own interviews, and this is definitely going to be one of them that I'm like, I'm taking notes. This is so good. Last question. I know you only have a couple more minutes to go. Is that what are a couple of the biggest mistakes people have when looking for a partner? Maybe for someone who's dating or in the dating game right now. What are 2 or 3 or 4 kind of mistakes people are making that you've seen?
Look, I wouldn't call it a mistake. I wouldn't call it a mistake, but like there's this whole paradigm of having to prove ourselves, or having to kind of like put on a dating face, or like show up as anyone, almost just like be our best selves in order to like create a relationship, or to create sexual attraction or interest. Where I think, the best relationships and are always going to come from being authentic, kind of like letting it show. And funnily enough, like the most attractive people are people that really accept themselves, that are kind of let as much of their inside out as possible. So I haven't dated in a while, but if I did, and when I did, it was like, here I am, kind of warts and all. Here I am, and it's not even warts. It's like, our imperfections are our places of growing potential. So that would basically be it. Like, and it can, for some people that might feel like a big jump, but I know, there are places, there are more and more like literal like conscious dating events and that sort of thing, where it's not about proving anything. It's not about showing up. It's just about revealing your true self to each other, and then seeing what happens. And I think when we do that, then the best things happen. And that's what happened. That's what's happened with me and Laura, and in previous connections. And I think it's the way to go.
Absolutely. I agree. Life's too short to be putting on any masks or trying to be something else, because it's not going to last anyway if you're putting on some craziness in the relationship in the beginning. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Simon. Everybody get in touch with him. Check out his website, check out his events here in Sydney, check out Facebook. And do you have any final comments for people out there?
One, and that's just like, I think there's a part of us all that just like knows on some level that we're actually worthy of love, that we're lovable, beautiful, perfect beings. And that all the stuff, that whether we took it on from our parents or society, school of like, you've got to look a certain way to be lovable. You've got to have a certain level of achievement. You've got to lose weight. You need bigger muscles. You need like more money or whatever in order to be lovable, or, to have a relationship. But in my experience, that stuff's definitely all bullshit. It's like, it's part of the human journey to take on all this like conditional love, these judgments and fears and ideas that we're not good enough, and let them go. But at the end of the day, like I've found that letting that go and, if in any way remembering that beauty that is in absolutely all of us, everything good comes from that. Health, relationships, like freedom, real abundance. It comes from just letting go of the false stuff of feeling like we're not lovable in some sort of way. That would be it.
Beautiful. Again, Simon, thank you so much. Your wisdom and your tips and your understanding around this is obviously, you're so passionate about it. And for those who are listening, please subscribe to the channel, share this video and like and comment. If you want to get in touch with Simon, connect with him online. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, Simon. I'll talk to you soon, mate. I look forward to coming to one of your events very soon. And everybody, have a great day. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. See ya.